So we'll start. If others join, that they will join halfway. Right. Okay. So then we're doing the last lecture today. Uh, we were discussing about career counseling last week. So now this is continuation of this, and some of the summaries. That means the what we have learned before has been summarized. So it's easy. Today's uh, a PowerPoint presentation is very easy. Even if you read, you can understand. So if we consider about job analysis, job description, and job satisfactions, they all comes under job evaluation. So we have to evaluate a job in a systematic and analytical manner to identify the value of the job. So we can determine the value of the job in relation to the skills needed, the responsibility we bear in the job, the effort we take to achieve the goals of the job, the environment we work, the job performances, all these come under evaluation, right? So then, uh, uh, so the evaluation is not about the person who does the job, but the job itself. The job is evaluated, right? So then if we consider about job analysis, slideshow again. If you consider about the job analysis, it is a systematic process. So they are in order to analyze now, even in the thesis that you have to analyze data, before that you need to collect data, right? So we need to collect data, we have to evaluate the data, then only we have to analyze, right? Then it like that. Job analysis is also the same. We have to do it in a systematic manner. First, we have to collect data, evaluate, and analyze all the information about the job. So then, what kind of information does the job provide us during our job analysis? Yes, Taranga, what kind of information are we provided during for job analysis?
Qualifications.
Yes, qualifications needed for the job, kind of training we need to undergo, the experience, because for certain jobs, they ask for experience. Then skills, characteristics of the person. Now, if we consider about a job like receptionist, so they have certain characteristics. They need soft skills, good communication skills, pleasant, right, with a good personality. So they expect certain characteristics. Then aptitude means the knowledge required to perform the job, right? So if we analyze a job, then it is easy for the institute or the organization to select the right person for the right job. Right now, since people are not in since not the right people are in the jobs, that we have problems. Then we can select the right person for the right job if we have a job analysis, right? Then so by analyzing the job, when we select the best person for that, so the holder, the person who is doing the job, he can perform well. He or she can perform very well. Right? So then it's easy for the person to plan future in the job, right? So career planning. So as an example, now if you consider about teaching, right? Now what's the job analysis regarding teaching? Right. So you need the qualifications. Now, as an example, for colleges of education, they select the candidates, especially for English. The qualifications required are English as a subject for A levels, or else English, that distinction pass, and literature. They should have done literature for all levels. So like that, then with the Z score, with high Z score. So like that, they require the qualifications, then the training. So in order to be a teacher, they have to undergo 2-year academic training and 1-year internship training. So now when the teachers are taken as novice teachers, they don't expect the experience, but they should have good teaching skills. So they have to cover some teaching practice spells. Then characteristics, teacher should be very friendly, kind-hearted. They should have soft skills, communication skills, right? So they should have the knowledge related to the subject. These kind of job analysis help the person to help the organization to select the right person for the right job. Right, then the job analysis provides all the facts about a job. So it becomes easy for an organization to match the job with the skills of the person. So now if the person knows about the job description, so then the person, when they go for the interview, they can match the job with the skills of the person. So then they can take the maximum from the relevant worker, right? Then they have performance standards. The performance standards are there to achieve the goals or expected outcomes of the organization. So if they know, if they have a job description, if they know the requirements of the job, so they can impose, they can decide the performance standards to see whether the worker is up to the standard or whether the worker needs training to get to the standard, right? So then job analysis provides in-depth information, enough the deep information of how the job will be performed to achieve the required goals and targets of the organization, right? So if the person is skillful, proficient in the job, he or she will be able to achieve the goals and targets expected according to the standards performance of the job, right? Then job description. Record the okay. Right. If we consider, can you see the screen? Hello?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Okay, right. So if you consider about a job description, the classification. So if you consider about teaching, so it belongs to teaching service. It's a service. So there are open service, youth seva, right? And island-wide service, Deepa Vyapta Seva, and the grade 3, 2, 1, like that. We can classify the jobs. So there are certain jobs that executive service, right? There are different classifications in jobs. Then working title. So maybe manager, director, lecturer. Right? Then pay range. So the range from 1 lakh to 3 lakhs, like that. The name of the department, the job description summary, that means the responsibilities, skills needed, so these things, right? The position. Then the role of the job, the duty that should be played by the person, right? The responsibilities that they have to bear, right? So all these things include in the position details. Right. Then job duties. What are the duties of our job? So there's a list of duties. Now, when a person is assigned a job, so there are certain things to be covered, fulfilled, the duties, right? That person is accountable or responsible to fulfill the work given to him or her. right? Then there are performance standards. So it is decided by either there may be international standards or maybe some standards imposed by the organization to achieve the expected outcomes or goals or objectives, right? So then if a person is skillful, knowledgeable, he has the abilities, so we can see whether he is up to the standards, the performance standards, whether they are good or satisfactory or weak. So if we find some people who have weaker performances, we can give them training, right? Okay. Then job factors. Then it's also outlines the knowledge, skills essential to complete the job successfully, right? Then level of education, the experience needed, whether the person has analytical skills, problem solving skills, different abilities to perform the job, right? So the job description is a very powerful tool we can follow for these functions, right? It can be used to communicate the job expectations. Now, when an employee come for an interview, we can tell. So these are the expectations. What these are the things that we expect from you in this job, right? Then during the recruitment process, that we can make him aware about it. So then it assists in managing the employee performance when we tell him these are the job descriptions, that these are the responsibilities you have. So you should have these kind of skills and abilities to perform these duties. Then it's easy for us to manage the employee because at the very beginning he knows his duties, right? Then it facilitates the setting employees and organizational goals. There are employee goals as well as organizational goals. We can match them if we make them aware at the very beginning, right? So even that it helps to assist the workload management because they know what kind of duties I have to do, what kind of skills I should have to perform the duties, what are my responsibilities, accountabilities. If they know all these things, they're not stressed. They know that this job has these kind of duties, so I have to fulfill. Job then he doesn't have any stress in the job. So then if they know the job description, it's helpful them for to plan the job, right? So then they will, if he needs that training, he will undergo certain training, right? Okay. Examples for a job description for a marketing manager, title the marketing manager. A department, like marketing department. So he should report to the president, right? He's responsible for, his superior is the president. So if we consider about the marketing manager, he is responsible for planning, directing, coordinating the marketing of the products and services of the organization. So these are the tasks he has to do. Sometimes he has to work with a team, his subordinators, to perform these tasks. So these are the duties of the manager, right? These are examples. So you can write about somebody else. If we consider about a teacher, so the job title is teacher. Department education. Report to the principal. So if we consider about the summary, so the person is responsible for planning lessons, right? Guiding students, teaching the students, evaluation. So you can write about the job duties of a teacher. So you can just read this. These are only examples, right? Then job satisfaction is the most important thing. So if we are not happy in the job, we can't fulfill. That means we can't do the job properly. We should love the job. We should love the work that we have to do and the environment. Then only we can be happy because we can do a good job if we love the job and the environment, right? So the job satisfaction, the attitude of the individual towards job, that is very, very important. If you don't like the job, you can't do a good job, right? So when a person exhibits a positive attitude towards his job, it leads to job satisfaction. If we love the job, we have job satisfaction because we work happily. if we have negative attitude, so we are not satisfied in the job. Right. So there are several factors that influence the job satisfaction. So such as gender, age, the period of work, position. Right now, there are some people that who come for jobs. Even some graduates come to the position of peon. Right. So then they are unhappy. Why? Sometimes his or her superiors are lower qualified people than him or her. So he is not satisfied. Since he doesn't have a job, he has come to that position. Right? So since though he is educated, can't help. Right? So motivating factors that influence job satisfaction include achievement, recognition, and promotion. So if we get the achievements in our job, if we get recognition in our job, if we get promotions during the correct time, then we are satisfied in our jobs. So according to Maslow's theory of needs, the first and foremost thing we have to satisfy is the physiological needs. I discussed it last week. Physiological needs means the basic needs. Food, water, sex, sleep, they are the basic needs. So once we fulfill these things, we go to the next level. That is security needs. So then we see whether we are secured, whether we have the protection, right? So then after the security needs, now if we consider about security needs in a job, whether it is a pensionable job, whether there is job security, මේ ජොබ් එක ඕනි වෙලාවක ගහලා පන්නන්න පුළුවන් ජොබ් එකක්ද ඕනි වෙලාවක යන්න කියන්න පුළුවන් එකක්ද නැත්නම් මේක අපිට permanentද so job security pension health assurance right then after fulfilling the security needs we go for love and belongingness so that is the good relationship with the environment the friendship then you may find good friends there you love your team members, you are loved by team members, that is love and belongingness need. Once it is fulfilled, we go to the upper one, that is self-esteem, Atma Abhimani, right? And self-esteem, can self-confidence, recognition, adoration, so then give importance, අපිට වැදගත් මේ ආයතනයට කියලා දැනුවත් කරන්න ඕනේ. Status, යාගේ තත්ත්වය, these things. Then finally, if we fulfill all these needs, we reach the self-actualization needs. That means we achieve our expected goals. That is the focal point or the apex, right? So then decision making and group counseling. So previously I discussed the last part of the career counseling. So in that we need to know about the job description, job duties, satisfaction, all these things. Now these also we have discussed previously, but anyway that we are discussing again. Decision making and group counseling, right? So group counseling is something that the counseling is given to a group of people who have a common problem. Tell me some of the common problems that we give group counseling. Can බලන්න common problems මොනවා වගේවද තියෙන්නේ කියලා. What are the common problems people have? People can be students students have that they need guidance or counseling, group counseling. Yes. As an example, exam phobia. So there are some children who can't remember the facts. They have exam phobia. So these kind of children should be given group counseling because it is not only one person, that there are many people who have the similar problem, right? So then group counseling is given to the whole group. Right? Right. Then when it comes to decision-making theory, right, according to this Gallett's theory, all decisions have the same characteristics, right? So they include the individual makes decision, individuals තමයි decisions ගන්න. For every decision, there are two possible courses of action. Decision is to be made on the basis of information in effect. Counseling decisions are of two types. They are terminal decisions, decisions, which are final decisions. Then investigatory decisions, which require more information to identify the thing, right? In group counseling, the role of the counselor is to help the group members to take the decision regarding their problem, right? Here, what the counselor does is, at the very beginning, a group of people, those who have the similar problem, are taken to a place. The group should have less than 10, right? To a place where they can move freely, right? They all meet at one place and they freely discuss about their problem. Then, by discussing, they come to know that I am not alone. There are some other people who have the same problem. Then they are not scared to come to the counselor and take treatments, because there are some other people who have the same problem, right? So in group counseling, the client who makes a decision on his or her with the help of the counselor. Counselor doesn't take any decision, but the client has the right to take decision. Counselor helps him to take the decision by making him understand the problem, right? So once necessary information is given to the individual, it's easy for him to take the decisions, right? So if you consider about group counseling in schools, right? As I told you, the children who are sitting for exams, those who have exam phobia, those who have poor memory power, so they can just meet the counselor for group counseling. So the people who have similar problems, so they can be taken to one place and let them discuss about their problem, right? Then it is time saving group counseling. Why? Because many people are given counseling at one time. So since the whole group is given counseling, it doesn't take much time. So time saves time, right? Okay. Here, the most important thing, the students who have this problem, they interact with each other, right? As an example, if one person applies some techniques to overcome the problem, the others also can take that example. They also can apply the same and see whether they also can succeed. Right. Educational development programs, right? These programs are undertaken to facilitate the transfer of knowledge transferring, skills transferring related to studies, exams, selecting subjects. It is called educational development. Personal and social development, right? So again, personal and social development programs, they facilitate the transfer of knowledge. The similar thing, help they help to transfer knowledge. Transfer but the skills relating to students' personal and social development, they transfer skills also. Self-awareness, decision-making, planning, right? Then it comes to referral. You know what referral is. What do you mean by referral? What is referral? So when necessary, the client is referred to the relevant person. As an example, now if the client is suffering from some physical defects, the counselor cannot help with that. So then the child can be directed to a specialist doctor who is good at that the field, right? That is called referral. School guidance programs, right? So then school guidance is very, very important. That's why in some school there's a guidance unit and there's a teacher who has followed guidance and counseling subject for their postgraduate diploma. They are released from the academic work, or else apart from the work they have to do, they are given some periods from the timetable to be in the counseling unit to help the students, right? then everybody needs guidance, but counseling is needed by people, those who have certain problems, right? So they can get from the guidance and counseling unit, the students can get guidance related to their personal problems, social problems, educational problems, vocational problems, right? So, okay, right. What are the activities, right? So then counseling, you know that counseling is a professional relationship between a professionally qualified counselor and the client, right? So here during the counseling intervention or counseling interview, the counselor helps the client to express whatever the things that comes to his mind. Thereby the counselor explore his thoughts, feelings, and identify the problem. Then assessment implies helping students to obtain better self-understanding. When the child is allowed to assess his thoughts, feelings, he understands his problem, right? Information. So information are very, very important during guidance, because that they need information related to their A-level streams to be selected, when they are applying for a job, when they are selecting optional subjects. So training opportunities, for that they need a lot of information about the labor market, the trends during these days, මොන වගේ රස්සාවලද trend එක වැඩි. So where we can follow the courses. So all these things are information, right? The role of counseling in education. So there are ethics in counseling. So there are ethics in every profession. Counseling also, they have some ethics, right? So the first and foremost thing is a counselor should not reveal the information gathered during the counseling intervention or counseling interview. So he or she should keep the information confidential. That means he has to maintain the confidentiality of the information, should not reveal it to anybody under any condition. But there are certain occasions we have to reveal the information. If the client is a threat to him or herself, යාටම තර්ජනකයක් suicide කරගන්න හදනවා, මොනවා හරි කරගන්න හදනවා නම් අපිට ඒ information කාට හරි දෙන්න. Sometimes the police people, that they will require the information. So then in such cases that we have to consider the life threat of the person, and we have to give information to relevant parties, right? So other thing is that counselor should not differentiate between clients on the basis of religion, caste, creed. We should not ill-treat them according to this, right? Then so then guidance and counseling for students play a very important role in order to shape their future, because sometimes they will be led astray if they are not guided properly. So we have to give guidance and counseling for the students, right? So then the parents, teachers, counselors, they should support the guidance programs for effective implementation of this. Counseling and interprofessional interaction. So interprofessional means that that counselor only cannot do a great job, because the counselor should contact with some other professionals. Now, as an example, in a school, we can get the service of the PHI, medical officer of health, nurses. So they can come, they can check the health of the students, and they can give some vitamins. Sometimes that rubella injection is given in the school. So like that, we need the assistance of other professionals. So then police officers can come to school to make aware the students about accidents, road accidents, home accidents, consumption of drugs. Professionals, only that is a connection. Counseling is a connection with some other professions. For example, to provide effective counseling to students in school, the counselors may need to interact with the teachers, other teachers in the school, in their staff, right? So if they do some genuine work, then we can make use of them to give guidance and counseling for the students, right? Or else we can invite some other outside parties. For if the teacher is organizing a career counseling program, we can invite some experts in different fields like NITILE, IBM, Univotech, Green Campus. We can invite a lawyer to make the students aware about different jobs and necessary the qualifications required, right? So sometimes the counselor has to work with psychiatrists if the students are suffering from certain problems, psychotherapists, healthcare providers, educational experts. So several people in different professions they have to have interactions with. Right. So that is called interprofessional interaction. You can professions other interaction. So it is essential for an effective counseling. Right. Okay. Right. So you can read all these things. Now it's very easily you can understand. Professionals find it difficult to communicate about their roles and responsibility to others. That's a very important thing. Sometimes when the professionals do not make the other people aware about their responsibilities and roles, then there can be some problems. Why? Then the other people, if they don't know the position of the person, his uh, job duties, qualifications and all skills needed, that there can be some conflicts, right? Therefore, we have to make others aware our job duties, our qualifications, our role that is played in the organization. You දන්නේ නැති වුණාම අනිත් අය ඒක ප්‍රශ්න ඇති කරනවා දන්නේ නැති වුණා, right? Right. Then right, we'll go to the next one. Right. So learning to be with interprofessionals. Interprofessionals means being with other professionals lead to become a good team player in a team that we are working with other professionals. Right. So when the professionals work as a team, right? So then it's very effective. Right. So then they should understand their roles, the expected goals and outcomes of the institution. He should have the responsibility being a member of the team. He can't just idle. He or she has to fulfill the duties expected by the organization, right? Okay. Right. There are different kinds of counseling. So we are talking about psychodynamic counseling. What is the psychodynamic? Right? So this counseling technique is based on the past experiences. That means the experiences a person has as an influence in his feelings in the present, right? Our past experiences, the feelings of past experiences may affect the present of the person, right? So these experiences are important to build up relationships with others, sometimes that certain experiences may be helpful for them in their jobs, certain experience they had during their childhood. So as an example, now you have PTS. What is PTS? That subject? Practical, technical skills, prayogika takshana kusalata, right? So there sometimes you get some experiences to be with teams, with a team that you prepare food items, handwork, then sometimes that you do some sewing or knitting. So these experiences that may be helpful for your future job, to work with other people, right? Then the counselor needs to interact with the psychologist to offer effective counseling for the needs for the students or clients who need counseling. In this type of counseling, the counselor plays a neutral role and encourages the counselor to talk to himself or herself, right? So in the psychodynamic counseling, we are talking about uh, the psychological approach. That means sometimes the counselor has to, now we talked about the professionals that who join in this counseling process. So like that, the psychologists also interact or connect with counseling, because sometimes we find children who have psychological problems. In such cases, sometimes the counselor cannot help them. Then the counselor has to direct the child to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or an expert counselor. So then, therefore, psychodynamic counseling also needs some service of certain professionals, right? Mm, right. Then client-centered counseling. In this type of counseling, the counselor offers empathy, unconditional positive regards. What do you mean by unconditional positive? Tell me, what is empathy? What do you mean by empathy? What is empathy? We have learned about it previously. What is empathy? Yes, tell. What is empathy? The feelings like sorrows, happiness of others, we should feel their happiness and sorrows as ours. So we are put into their boot and see, experience. Empathy. Then unconditional positive regards means sometimes the client may be a troublesome person. Oh, the notorious character in the school, but when he or she comes for counseling, we should not have any kind of condition. We have without any condition, we accept the client and help them, right? Right. What is transpersonal counseling? This is an integrative and holistic approach that utilizes creative imagination, right? So then here, they have in some people that they have some spiritual කියන අධ්‍යාත්මික පැත්ත සමහර අය හිතලා ඉන්නවා in the life of human nature, right? So it is also there are some people who consider about all these things, that is called transpersonal counseling, right? But in counseling, most of the time, if the counselor is a professional counselor, they use some counseling theories, right? Then existential counseling. This counseling help people to clarify, understand the life, right? So then they encourage them to focus on basic assumptions they have to make about themselves, right? So that is existence. පැවැත්ම ගැන. හිතන්නේ මේ living, about living, existential counseling. Rational emotive behavioral counseling, right? This type of counseling is of the view that people have two main goals in life. What are these two main goals? They should stay alive and be happy. ඒක තමයි යාළගේ main goals දෙක. Right? So then they try to remove all the obstacles they have in order to be happy. Right? They need to spend healthy, balanced lives. Right? And by achieving goals. Okay. Cognitive behavioral counseling, right? So this is very, very important because sometimes people have negative thinking. As an example, if they are for an exam, they may think, I will fail the exam. Fail. They have negative thinking, self-defeating, irrational beliefs. So then it affects them, their behavior very badly. So we should not let our feelings to become negative, right? So they are counselor make the client understand his negative feelings and beliefs and try to correct them, right? Then interpersonal therapy is a treatment, right, here it examines how problems in relationships contribute to health problems such as depression, right? It's a semi-structured therapy. It's a kind of treatment in counseling. It examines how problems in relationships contribute to health problems. Again, relationship problems කොහොමද බලපාන්නේ depression වගේ ඒවා හැදෙන්නේ. Right. Then there's another thing called oriental functions. I'm quickly finishing because there are 63 slides. So that there is nothing very difficult. You can read and understand. So I will quickly go through. Orientation means now even when you especially when you go to a new place, you need the orientation. As an example, now when our student teachers come to the college for the first time, they are given an orientation. They make them aware about, they are taken a walk around the college, showing different places and introduce different officers, the clerical staff, kitchen staff, the lecturers, president, vice presidents. Then they are given about knowledge about the subjects they are learning, how many subjects, how many assignments do they have, about the summative tests, all these things. They are given an orientation to orient or make them familiar to the place. That is called oriental function. So they are adjusted, they make the environment familiar to them. Right? Developmental functions. The main aim of counseling is the overall development of an total development of an individual. So if we help the person for the total development, he or she adjusts to the environment quickly, right? The aim of counseling is not only to help person who faces problem, but to help an individual to prevent the problems, to adjust to the problems like that. So that we not only helping them to overcome the problems when they get, before that, it is essential to help them to overcome the problems before getting them. Okay? So developmental function of counseling helps in self-development, development of the society, and development of the nation. Right. There are mainly 3 types of counseling that we discuss some of them. Individual counseling. Tell me what is individual counseling? We discussed one day, as I remember. What is individual counseling? Now we discussed about the group counseling. Group counseling means a group of people who have the similar problem get. What is individual counseling? Yes, Taranga?
Counseling provided by the counselor to a client and only one person for his
Yes, only one person for his specific problem. Right. So during the individual counseling, the counselor attend to only one person and help him to solve his specific problem. Right. So they are sometimes, according to the gravity of the problem, they can have several meetings. Group counseling is given to a group of people who have the similar problem. Right. Yeah, that first of all, these group of people or students are allowed to discuss about their problem and identify their problem, right? The main thing is in counseling that they can apply, if one person applies a certain strategy and succeed, others also can apply the same. And they feel that they are not alone. There are some other people who have similar problems. Then there's another one called self-help counseling. Self-help counseling, right? So it takes place in small groups where there are no counseling leader. There are no counseling leaders, but they take part in this equally to solve their problem. Right. So all these things, individual counseling, group counseling, self-help counseling, all these types help an individual to overcome his problem, right? So they discuss the problem with the counselor or without the counselor with other members. Anyway, they finally they they take decisions to overcome problems. The role of the counselor is that of an assistant who simply helps and guides the counselee to find solutions. So the counselor, they don't provide ready-made solutions, but help the client to find solutions to their problems, right? Right. So then an individual can choose any type of counseling depending upon the extent of the problem. Now, according to the problem, they can select whether they need individual counseling, group counseling, or self-help counseling. Right? So when an individual has some personal problem, it is advisable to go for individual counseling, right? Then if the person has some common problem like exam phobia, poor memory power, then if they want to find a job or how to face an interview, how to find a suitable job or how to find courses, if they have common problems like that, they can go for group counseling, right? So other thing is selecting the right counsel. It is very, very important, right? If selecting the right counsel is very important in the process of counseling, right? Then we are talking about qualities of a counselor. So first and foremost thing is the patience, endurance, because sometimes the client, they take much time of the counselor explaining things and clarifying things. They want the counselor to listen. That is also enough for the certain person. So in such cases, they have to be very patient. If they lose patience, that they can't do this counseling process, right? Because that when discussing the problems, they have to listen very carefully, understand the problem, convince the client about the problem. So all these things, it needs lots of patience and endurance. Because සමහරවිට වැඩගත් නැති දේවල් කියවනවා මේ client ඒවත් අහගෙන ඉන්න වෙනවා. Counselor should be an active listener. When the client tells certain things, that means the problem, the counselor should listen very actively. The counselor cannot understand the problem. Other thing is, if the client feels the counselor is not paying attention, the client will not reveal his problem anymore, right? There won't be a good counselor-client relationship. So then, how can we show that? How can the counselor show that he is listening to the client? Iresha, will you mute, please? Will you mute your... Okay, thank you. Right. Okay. If we consider about the listening as a technique, so how can you show that it's okay when you need to respond, you can unmute yourself and just give the answer. So how can the counselor encourage the client to tell more or just explain him or herself? What kind of technique we can use? Actively listen,
not the head.
Yes, nodding the head. Then we can encourage them. Yes. Next, then what happened? So like that, we can use certain utterances to encourage the client to tell more, right? So then we discussed about one thing, patience or endurance during the counseling process. Then active listening, not only listening, should be active listening. Then genuineness, authenticity, it's a very, very important thing. We should show the client that we have genuine interest to help the client, right? It should be shown, right? So when we are selecting a counselor, we have to select these kind of, we have to see whether these kind of characteristics are there in that person, right? The most important thing to be kept in mind when selecting a counselor is the fact that the counselee or client must feel comfortable in discussing about his problem. So the counselor, client should be able to discuss the problem without any disturbance or without any problem with the counselor. Right? Then only the counselor-client relationship become very effective and successful. Right. Then for maintaining healthy relationship also, the counselor should win the heart of the client and should listen to the client properly. The communication skills are very, very important because we have to ask, counselor has to ask questions. That means should show that you are listening to the client very attentively. So like then you have to maintain the code of ethics like confidentiality. So therefore, if the counseling session to be successful, the maintaining healthy relationship is very, very important, because in any case the client does not trust the counselor, there won't be any healthy relationship. Then this counseling client this action is also not successful. If we consider about the code of ethics, right? So there are certain ethics, that conducts that we have to consider. The first and foremost thing is confidentiality of the information. So once the client reveals certain things, we should not reveal it with anybody. Now, as an example, imagine you are the counseling teacher in the unit and a child comes and reveal you certain problems. Then you reveal it at the staff meeting and discuss with other teachers, and the teachers inquire from the student regarding that. Then the counseling thing is over. So we should not do that, right? We should not let him face inconvenience from these things, right? Then because you have to keep the dignity of the profession, you should not do wrong things, right? You should not have wrong relationships with the clients, right? Okay. Right. Right. Working stage, right? This is a stage where the counselor completely involves the counselee in discussion. Right. So then here, this can be done in a counseling unit, or even you can be in a selected place to discuss or have a counselor-client discussion. Confrontation. Confrontation means face-to-face discussion. Right. Then, so as we know that counselor don't give ready-made answers, solutions. So the counselor help the client to understand the problem and find solutions by him or herself, right? It is at this stage, in working stage, right? The counselor uses various techniques. What kind of techniques? Responding, exploring, restatement and reflection, interpretation, confrontation, unconditional positive regards, empathy, silence. Catharsis means that let him tell what the bad experiences he has undergone and talk about them, right? And diagnose the problem. So during this stage, working stage, using all these methods, the counselor identify the problem. Right. Then, so then the number of counseling sessions is decided according to the gravity of the problem, right? Okay. The termination stage, that the last stage. So during the termination stage, they can end the counselor-client relationship. So there are several reasons for that. Sometimes they finish this relationship because the client has found a solution to the problem. Or else sometimes that the relationship is stopped temporarily because there are certain uh, 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 things. That means sometimes the counselor cannot help him anymore, the client. Then the counselor has to refer the client to some other expert. Then they have to terminate the counseling session, right? Sometimes the client behave in improper manner. Then also the client has to terminate the counseling intervention, right? So sometimes the client is not responding to the counselor, and client is not interested anymore, not doesn't reveal anything. Sometimes in such cases also they have to terminate their counselor client intervention or meeting. Right. So then in case that counselor cannot help the client anymore, they can refer the client to some other expert, right? Okay. Follow-up stage. Now, imagine now the counselor has given some kind of support to the client to understand the problem and take his own solutions. So after that, we are having a follow-up, whether the client has followed what the counselor said, and whether now he's okay, whether he has become all right now. So like that, sometimes the counselors have follow-up stage. It is not necessarily be done, but anyway, some of them do that. Right. Classroom guidance is provided by the high school counselors, right? Now, in certain schools that they have counselors, especially in schools where there are secondary classes up to A levels. So then they give counseling for academic support, to improve their skills for academic work, for take tests, right? Then for career planning, they understand themselves and others, to cope up with the problems. Sometimes they face difficulty in facing problems, example, exams, right? Right? How to work with peers, how to be in the society. They have some communication problems, problem solving, decision making, conflict resolution. So for these things, the counselor help them, right? Individual student planning help the high school counselor to enable students in the following area. So the high school counselor help them to set goals in their life, to have academic plan for their higher studies, career plans, solve problems, understanding self, understanding his strengths and weaknesses, right? Mm, Sometimes they give individual counseling, group counseling, help them in their family crisis, school problems in the school. So for all these things, they help. Okay. The following are some professional issues that the counselor may face when practicing counseling. Consent and abandonment. Sometimes they have to give up certain things, right? So consent means that the counselors have to have the consent of the counselee. That means they like to help the client or counselee, right? They like to give the service. They like to give the treatments. Now, before giving the treatments, counselor should tell the client what kind of treatments are given and why the treatments are given, right? That they should not hide these facts from the client or counselee, right? And counselor cannot abandon the client halfway. ඒ කියන්නේ මග අතර දාලා යන්න බෑ counselor client relationship එකේ, right? So then the counselor can tell if he wants to stop this counseling, he can refer the client to somebody else and stop it. Otherwise, they can't do it halfway, right? Okay. Then confidentiality issues. I told you that when giving counseling, we have to maintain the confidentiality of the information. We should not reveal it to anybody unless the client become a threat to him or herself. Suicidal tendency sometimes we have to inform, we have to give the information to the police officers, right? Relevant people, psychiatrists, right? Then culture and bias. Counselor also have personal values, but they cannot let these values overpower, right? So they have certain values, they can't show their power overly towards the client, right? Okay. So they have certain, even the counselor also have different differences, so, but they should not show it to the client, right? Maybe that his ideas or maybe his caste or creed, that they should not show these to the clients, right? Counseling process, we have learned all these things. So counseling is, okay, can you just give what counseling is? We have learned about all these things. Just recapitulate karana. So you can just tell what counseling is. Can anybody tell what counseling is? What kind of relationship is counseling?
It's a professional service given by a counselor to a client
Very good.
for
So
their
it's
specific.
yes, it's a professional. That word should be there. It's a counselor-client relationship. The counseling is given by a professionally qualified counselor to a client. That means the guidance can be given by anybody. We told that we discussed even the siblings, peers, teachers, parents, anybody can give guidance, but counseling should be given by a professionally qualified counselor. Right? They are the counselor, help the client to understand the problem, do adjustments, or to solve the problem by him or herself. Right? Then the various stages of the counseling process, interview stage, that they are during this stage that the counselor just meet the counselee or client and just ask questions. So what kind of questions we can ask from the client? There are two types of questions. What are they? We can ask close-ended questions where we have yes or no. Are you sad? Then we have yes or no. Then we can ask, why are you sad? There are open-ended questions. Then there are lots of things they have to tell, right? So mostly with the adult clients, we ask open-ended questions. Then we can gather lots of information, right? So then by asking questions, by listening actively, they can build up a relationship, right? Then, right, so that the building rapport is that they have to build up a very good relationship in order to have a healthy counselor-client meeting, right? Okay. So they ask different questions about friends, school, college, about the problem, right? So then we should not threaten the client or just intimidate the client. We have to ask the questions in a very friendly manner, right? Right. So then here, during this period, the counselor should listen to the client carefully, show empathy, that treat the client with respect, show warmth. We should not consider about his age, sex, race, color, or religion, socioeconomic status. We should treat the client unconditionally, right? There should not be any regard. Unconditional positive regard should be shown. Right. Then working stage. Repeat. Working stage working stage means when we are giving repeat. So working stage means when we are giving the counseling process, right? So then here, this is the stage where the counselor completely involves the counselee in discussion. They are involving in the discussion. The counselor explains to the counselee what will be done in the process. So we have to make the client aware what kind of if we are giving treatments, what kind of treatments are given and why are we giving treatments. So then with that awareness, we can go for treatments, right? So during the stage, various techniques are used by the counselor, like responding, exploring, reflection, interpretation, confrontation, unconditional positive regards, empathy, right? We discussed all this. So we told that counseling can be terminated, stop even by the client if he feels that he or she doesn't need the service anymore. So sometimes counselor may stop the relationship if he feels that he can't handle the problem anymore, but he can't just stop. He has to refer the client to somebody, some expert, right? Then follow-up stage we discussed. So after giving the counseling, once the client takes the decision, so we can have a follow-up to see whether the client has accepted the advice given by the counselor, or whether now he is okay, whether he has overcome the problem. Right. Then how to build rapport with the counselee in the counseling relationship. It's very, very important, the building up this rapport. So this relationship depends on this rapport. Rapport means that the relationship, the counselor-client relationship. So for that, client should have that. Counselor should win the trust of the client. Otherwise, the client won't reveal the problem or reveal any information, right? So during this process, the trust should be maintained by the counselor, right? And a counselor should provide a comfortable environment for the counselee. Right? The client should not feel any fear. He or she should not be threatened by the counselor, right? So then only the good rapport, good relationship is built up between the counselor and the client. Right. So then other one is that the counselor must empathize with the problems. That empathy should be shown to the client, and counselor should not be judgmental. Judge කරන්න බෑ මුලදීම මෙයා මෙන්න මේ වගේ කෙනෙක් කියලා. That should not be done. Right? And counselor should follow the ethics. I told you, maintain the confidentiality, then should not take any rewards, right? Any sexual or any monetary reward should not be taken, right? So if the counselor is working in an institute, that we should not get the counselor client to his own place. එයා වෙන තැනකත් කරනවා එතෙන්ට ගෙන්න ගන්න බෑ. අපි ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් එකේ නේ එතන තමයි කවුන්සලින් කරන්නේ. අර ටියුෂන් වල වගේ දෙට අර ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් ටියුෂන් දෙන්නේ එහෙම ගෙන්න ගන්න බෑ. And even in counseling, we should not use propaganda or commercial ways to give the publicity. අපි ඒක එහෙම කරන්නේ නැහැ. හරි? Then counselor must not rush to solve the problem. So we should not make him or hurry to take a solution. We can just slowly let him understand and find a solution, right? So the counselor should be honest and he should have genuine need to help the client. He should not be rude anyway. So then when the rapport is developed between the counselor and the client, so then the client begin to trust the counselor. Then only they can go for a better solution, or they can have a good relationship and solve the problems very quickly in a healthy manner. Right. Role of counselors in guidance program. So what's the role of the counselor, right? A school counselor is a professional who offers guidance and counseling service to the students. Now, here in certain schools, they have counseling units. The counselor here selected is a teacher who has got the postgraduate qualifications. එක තියෙන ඒ කියන්නේ මේ subject එක follow කරපු අය තමයි ගන්න. හරි? Then they are in the counseling unit. They are given personal guidance or counseling, vocational guidance, social guidance, right? So then without any, irrespective of any disparity like caste, creed, color, whether this child is a notorious character, the counselor has to give counseling to the client, right? What else? Okay. Student counseling in high schools, but here that in our uh, uh, country also we have a counselors in uh, some schools, in most of the schools, because soon after the war and tsunami there was a need of counseling unit because children have lots of problems. So therefore it was decided by the government to establish counseling units in the schools, right? So then uh, these are the reasons, because now the students have so many problems. Now, even if we consider about our college also, we get the service of a counselor for our students. So sometimes they don't like to discuss certain things with, um, they like to discuss certain things with unknown people. දන්නේ නැතිම කෙනෙක් එක්ක ඒගොල්ලෝ කැමතිනේ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ප්‍රශ්න කතා කරන්න, they have the trust නේ. So then it's better the a teacher that who can, in even big schools, that they are released from their timetable, but in small schools that they are in apart from their timetable, they are doing this service, right? The high school students are also at an age where they can be easily influenced by a lot of people and external forces. So it's very, very important here that this is the age that the adolescent period, so they can be easily dragged to wrong ways, wrong paths. Therefore, it's essential to have maybe that addiction of drugs, alcohol, smoking. They form gangs and do some notorious things. So therefore, it is essential to have guidance unit in the guidance and counseling unit in the school, right? Right. Okay. So sometimes they have problems with selecting subject streams at A levels, career, so they have to take some decisions in their personal life. Then sometimes they can't decide which course to be followed. They identify their strengths and weaknesses, right? So for all these things, they can get the support of the counselor. So they help, these counselors help the students to adjust to the environment, mentally, physically, and socially. They have to help with curriculum problems related to subjects. Sometimes they have certain barriers in their learning, so they can help them to overcome the barriers, help the students take decisions regarding their studies, right? Selecting courses, selecting career. So therefore, especially the vocational guidance, sometimes they can organize career guidance workshops to make them aware about different jobs, the courses they should follow, the skills required in certain jobs. Then they can organize workshops to improve their leadership skills, positive thinking, right? Right. Classroom guidance is provided by the high school counselor with the following objectives, right? So they give academic skill support. They help them to take tests because sometimes they have exam phobia. They have poor memory. The guidance teacher can organize seminars to make them aware about how to answer a paper, time management. Then career planning, to understand their strengths and weaknesses, to face problems, to maintain peer relationships, to improve social skills, to improve their communication skills, problem solving, decision making, conflict resolutions, study skills, if they undergo abuses, then they help them to overcome them, right? So goal setting, achieve goals, achievable goals, to have some achievable goals, right? To have some academic plans, career plans, problem solving. So for all these things, to improve their strengths, to minimize their weaknesses, for all these things, they need the support of the counselor. Right? Then transition plans, responsive service offered by the high school counselor. So they can give group counseling, individual counseling. They can use interventions to overcome their crisis. So they help to get help from their peers. They give uh, how to work in teams collaboratively. They do referral when necessary, because in any case that if the counselor cannot help him anymore, they do referral. They refer them to psychiatrists, doctors, ENT doctors, right? So sometimes the counselor need the help of other teachers in the school for organizing certain activities for the students. Right. So then a high school counselor may need to interact with the parents due to the reasons like when they want to plan academic, that now there are some students, they tell the counselor that they can't plan the studies properly. So then the counselor can ask the parents to come and help the parent also to support the child for planning, for academic planning. Then post-secondary planning means after the studies, that what they can do, if they can apply for scholarships. So to improve parent-child communications, parent-school communication. Right? So lots of, almost all of for the things that they can contact the parents and get their help to support the child to overcome their problems, right? So here teacher interactions, student interactions are also very, very important, because for all these things, for planning, academic planning, career planning, for improving study skills, they need these interactions to give some academic support. Because now we know that there are different children with different learning styles. So then teachers have to cater to them using different methods, right? Help to succeed their education, right? Then duties and responsibilities of a high school counselor. Right. Then high school එකගෙන අපි එහෙම දෙන්න අපේ ඔය මේ secondary classes කියන එක. So main aim of the high school counselor is to ensure that the students perform well academically. That's the most important thing. Counseling දෙන්නේ යාළගේ academic work හොඳට කරගෙන යන්න. Right? So we have to support, especially the adolescents. They face lots of adjusting problems when they with their puberty. Their with the hormonal actions, they have lots of adjustment problems, right? So they have different changes in their behavior, right? They have different desires, needs. Therefore, the counselor has to understand all these things and help them to adjust to the environment and change their behaviors, right? So there are some students who have undergone abuses. So then before that, the counselor should prevent students being abused and help them to help them to have a healthy lifestyle even at home. Okay? Sometimes family problems may negatively affect their academic performances. In such cases, the counselor should help the students to overcome them by discussing with the parents and taking necessary actions, right? Because as an example, now if a child's mother has gone abroad, if there are younger siblings to look after, sometimes the child stays at home to support the father, because father goes out for work and the child is looking after the children. So in such cases, the child needs to study, but she can't. So therefore, the counselor or the teacher should discuss with the adults and take necessary actions to give the opportunity for this child to do the studies. So like that, they can help. Right. So the counselor must have complete knowledge on how to prepare the high school students for their careers, because now after A levels, they are getting ready to do jobs. So the counselor has the responsibility of organizing career guidance workshops and making them aware about different careers, then the skills needed, the training that they have to undergo. So if they make aware, then they will select their career path, right? So then the counselor can invite experts in different fields to make the children aware about these jobs by giving necessary information, right? Then sometimes they can help the children to find training and have their internship in certain um, institutions or organizations, right? Then counselor should provide information, correct information to the children regarding their higher studies, regarding their selection of career. So they have to give correct information, right? Then so the counselor must make sure that the students develop the necessary skills to interact with others. That is very, very important, because that teamwork is very important when they go for a job. So we have to improve that interaction with others, being with others, then how to face interviews, how to improve necessary skills in certain jobs. So these things are very, very important. So the counselor, apart from helping their problems, individual problems or family problems, they have to help them in their academic success and showing the career path, right? So now I think we have discussed almost all the things. We have discussed all these things previously. It's just like a summary of what we have learned. So if there's anything you can ask, if you want, you can ask anything. And if you have anything to be clarified. Because when you read this note, you can easily understand. No, any problems? You have understood? So I didn't ask any questions today because I wanted to complete this very quickly. There are 62 or 63 slides, and we have discussed most of them previously. So therefore that I did not give you the chance to discuss, since this is the last lecture and I wanted to complete. Anything you want to ask, any question or anything to get clarified, not only regarding this, even something that you have encountered previously? When are you supposed to sit for the exam then, first term exam?
It's assignment based. So we
Ah,
have submitted already the guidance assignment.
okay. So what kind of questions did you get for guidance?
We had to define and differentiate guidance and counseling, and and we had a question regarding the school counseling as well, when we need it and why we need to have like
Okay.
continue the school counseling. And there were 5 more questions.
Okay. So could you do them easily? Were they
We
difficult?
did, yeah. No, we did for my actually for the first thing, like differentiate and all, like it's been very easy because we have already discussed those questions.
Okay.
But we managed. I think I managed. Like,
Okay, right. Okay, so thank you for your cooperation during all this period. So hope that you will, because that this is not only, you should not confine only to a paper or to an assignment. So you need the knowledge, because if you have the desire to become teachers, or if you are already teachers, you may happen to practice this practically in your classroom setting for your students, because you know, to understand them. Because that now if you learn about I don't know whether you learn about psychoanalytic theory in psychology. In the psychoanalytic theory, there are certain psychosexual stages, right? So during the first three psychosexual stages, that if there is any unpleasant incident happens, so without our knowledge, so they are deposited in the unconscious mind. And when we grow up, certain characteristic behaviors appear. As an example, during the oral phase, that means when we are sucking breast milk from the mother, if we have some unpleasant experience, because that we get some kind of sexual feeling, sexual satisfaction by sucking breast milk and biting the breast. So if we have some kind of unpleasant experience, it is deposited in the unconscious mind. And when we grow up, right, sometimes you might have seen some children suck the thumb, that they are heavy smokers. Sometimes they eat the backside of the pen. So they get that pleasure, that psychological satisfaction by doing these things. So therefore, if we find children with these kind of, that means biting nails and biting the back of the pen, we should not punish them or scold them. We have to strategically deviate the attention of the child to some other thing, because that he is getting some kind of satisfaction, psychological satisfaction, that he couldn't fulfill when he was young. So therefore, it's very, very important to know the theories, especially. There are certain theories in counseling, psychoanalytic theory, person-centered approach, what is that, behavioral theories, cognitive behavioral theories. So there are so many things that we need to know regarding the counseling. That means how can we help the children to overcome the problems, right? So therefore, don't confine this only to a paper or an assignment. You have to practice in the schools, in your classroom setting, to help your students to overcome the problems, right? Okay, so if you don't have any other problems, we can, I don't know, Putha, that there's a question, madam, when we are starting our second semester. I don't have any idea. I don't know whether you have, I don't know, do you have this subject in your second semester? Guidance, I don't think.
Yes, madam.
You have guidance in your second semester also? Okay, then you will get these theories and all in the future. So then it's better that to know the theories. Okay, so thank you very much. So we'll meet soon. Okay, wish you good night, everyone. Okay.
Good night,
Thank you
madam.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Good night. Good night.